Okay, so let's begin our discussion for lesson 5. So for lesson 5, we're going to talk about hypothesis testing with one sample. Okay, so we have the introduction. So pag sinabi nating hypothesis test, so this is a process that uses sample statistics to test a claim about the value of a population parameter. So for example, may isang manufacturer na kiniklaim niya na yung rechargeable batteries nila are good for at least 1,000 charges. So, paano natin mapapatunayan yon? So, we're going to take a sample to test that claim. So, yun yung hypothesis testing. So, we need to get the sample statistics in order for us to claim na yung mga rechargeable batteries nila ay talagang good for at least 1,000 charges. A verbal statement or claim about a population parameter is called a statistical hypothesis. So, for us to test the average of 1,000 hours, a pair of hypotheses are stated. So, syempre, one that represents the claim and the other is its complement. So, totoo ba na at least 1,000 charges? Or, pwede naman isang hypothesis, baka naman less than 1,000 charges. So, among the two hypotheses, one of them must be true, and the other is false. So, stating a hypothesis. A null hypothesis is a statistical hypothesis that contains a statement of equality, such as less than or equal to, equal, or greater than or equal to. So, kapag kay null hypothesis, dapat nandun yung statement of equality, or in short, dapat nasa kanya yung equal sign. So, how to read yung symbol na yan? So, that is H sub 0 or H naught. So, kapag ka null hypothesis, we'll be using H sub 0 na lang. An alternative hypothesis is the complement of the null hypothesis. So, it is a statement that must be true if the null hypothesis is false and contains a statement of inequality such as greater than, not equal to, or less than. So kapag kay alternative hypothesis naman is yung mga inequality symbol. So ibig sabihin wala ka dyan makikitang equal sign. So how to read yung symbol natin for alternative hypothesis? So that is H sub A. So again, kapag kay null hypothesis, gagamitin natin is H sub 0. Kapag kay alternative hypothesis, we'll be using H sub A. Okay, in order for us to write the null and alternative hypothesis, translate the claim made about the population parameter from a verbal statement to a mathematical statement. So yun lang, ita-translate lang natin verbally to from verbal to mathematical. Okay, so let's have a few examples. Write the claim as a mathematical sentence. State the null and the alternative hypothesis. Then identify which represents the claim. So example 1. A manufacturer claims that its rechargeable batteries have an average life of at least 1,000 charges. So there is the word average life of at least 1,000 charges. So ibig sabihin that is greater than or equal to 1,000 or from 1,000 above. Okay? Since yung symbol ay greater than or equal to, so this will be the null hypothesis kasi meron siya equal sign. And that is the claim. Kasi yung kiniklaim ng company na yung kanilang battery have an average life of at least 1,000 charges. So ano ang complement ng greater than or equal to? Siyempre, yun yung magiging alternative hypothesis mo. That is less than. So yung mu is less than 1,000. And that's the complement of your null hypothesis. So, ganun lang kasimple. Ta-translate lang natin yung verbal statement into a mathematical statement using the symbol greater than, less than, not equal to, and so on. Okay? And always remember na yung alternative hypothesis is the complement of the null hypothesis. Okay, another example. Say, for example, State Bills College claims that 94% of their graduates find employment within 6 months of graduation. So we're talking about the population. So gagamitin natin yung symbol ni P. Kasi alam naman natin kapag population ang topic, we use the population symbol. So hindi siya mu. So yung P. So P is equal sa 0.94. Bakit 0.94? Kasi kiniklaim nung college na yun na 94% ang graduates nila find employment within 6 months of graduation. Kung ang ating null hypothesis ay yung P is equal to 0.94 at nandun yung claim, how are you going to represent the alternative hypothesis? So ano ang complement ng equal? Siyempre not equal. 0.94. So that is stating the null and the alternative hypothesis. Translating from verbal statement into mathematical statement. So, ulitin ko ulit, kapag kay null hypothesis, dapat nasa kanya yung equal sign. Kay alternative hypothesis, nasa kanya yung mga inequality symbols. Okay, types of errors. No matter which hypothesis represents the claim, always begin the hypothesis test assuming that the null hypothesis is true. So at the end of the test, one of the two decisions will be made. 1. It's either to reject the null hypothesis, or 2. That is fail to reject the null hypothesis. So simple lang. Decision 1 is to reject the null hypothesis. Decision 2 is to accept. Ibig sabihin ng fail to reject is the same as accept the null hypothesis. So ano yung type 1 error? A type 1 error occurs if the null hypothesis is rejected when it is true. Ano naman yung type 2 error? A type 2 error occurs if the null hypothesis is not rejected when it is false. So to make it simpler, let's make a table para mas madali natin intindihin. So here we have the actual truth value of the null and the decision to be made, whether to do not reject, ibig sabihin to accept, or reject the null hypothesis. Okay, let's look at this column, etong column na to. The null hypothesis is true. Tapos ang ginawa mong decision based on your hypothesis testing is to accept or do not reject HO. So dahil totoo yung null hypothesis mo at inaccept mo siya, ibig sabihin that is correct decision. Okay, how about your other case? Kung yung null hypothesis mo raw ay true, tapos ni-reject mo siya in the end, so now you have a type 1 error. Kasi totoo yung iyong null hypothesis, tapos ang decision mo based on your statistical analysis is ni-reject mo yung iyong null hypothesis. So mali yun. That is type 1 error. Or parang sa buhay, kapag ka dumating yung tamang tao sa'yo at tinanggap mo, correct decision yon, right? Kasi yun na yung true love mo eh. Okay? Ngayon, dumating yung true love mo, null hypothesis is true, at nireject mo siya, let's say binasted mo siya, hindi mo siya tinanggap sa buhay mo, that is type 1 error. Okay? Siya na yung forever mo, tapos pinakawalan mo pa. Oh, reject HO, ibig sabihin, di ba? Type 1 error yan. Okay? Now, let's look at this column. The null hypothesis daw is false. Okay? Tapos, inaccept mo yon. False yung null hypothesis mo. Do not reject HO. Ibig sabihin, accept. Type 2 error. Diba? Mali yung null hypothesis mo, tapos inaccept mo eh. Okay? Now, ano yung other case? Null hypothesis is false. Tapos, nireject mo yung null hypothesis na yon. Correct decision. Kasi mali yung null hypothesis. So, tama lang siya na i-reject. Right? So, you have a correct decision. Okay? So, again, in real life, kapag ka yung maling tao dumating sa buhay mo at tinanggap mo siya, ibig sabihin nun, nagka-problema kayo sa relasyon nyo. Kasi maling tao nga yung tinanggap mo. So, that is type 2 error. Okay, another example. Null hypothesis is false. Maling tao dumating sa buhay mo. Tapos, nireject mo, binasted mo. Correct decision. So, hindi siya karapat-dapat para sa'yo. So, correct decision niya. Clear tayo about type 1 and type 2 error? Okay? Next. So, let's have the examples. So, balikan natin yung example kanina. State Bills College claim that 94% of their graduates find employment within 6 months of graduation. So, what will be a type 1 or type 2 error B? A. Ang claim natin ay yung P is equal to 0.94. Ang alternative natin is P is not equal to 0.94. So, a type 1 error is rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true. Ibig sabihin, totoo yung claim nung college na yun, tapos ni-reject mo. So, type 1 error yon. The population proportion is actually 0.94, but it is rejected. So, ngayon, nagkaroon ka ng type 1 error. Okay? A type 2 error is failing to reject the null when it is false. So, ibig sabihin, false yung null hypothesis mo, tapos in-accept mo pa rin. So, you have a type 2 error. The population proportion is not 0.94, but it is not rejected. Okay, so there you have the type 2 error. Okay, so level of significance. So this will be another term. In a hypothesis test, the level of significance is your maximum allowable probability of making a type 1 error. So it is denoted by alpha. So, yung small Greek letter na alpha, yun yung ating level of significance symbol. Okay? So, ang hypothesis test natin are based on alpha. So, pag kay alpha, type 1 error yung ating tinatest. The probability of making a type 2 error is denoted by beta. Okay? The lowercase Greek letter beta naman yung ating symbol. So, by setting the level of significance at a small value, you're saying that you want the probability of rejecting a true null hypothesis to be small. So, kailangan natin yung level of significance ay maliit lang. Para maliit lang yung chance ang mangyari yung type 1 or type 2 error mo. Okay, so these are the commonly used levels of significance. We have alpha of 0.10, alpha of 0.05, and alpha of 0.01. So, kung i-recall nyo, familiar itong tatlong value na to, di ba? So, i-recall natin yung previous lessons natin about confidence interval. Meron tayong confidence level na 90%, 95%, at 99%. So, parang yung alpha na 0.10, ito yung remaining area ng confidence level na 90%. So, para magka-partner yung confidence level na 90% at yung level of significance na 0.10, na 10%. So, that will make it 100%. Okay? So, yung alpha level na 0.05, para ito yung 95% confidence level. At yung alpha level na 0.01, yung level of significance na 0.01, ang kapartner naman nito yung confidence level na 99%. So, para siyang 90%, 95%, 99% pagdating sa confidence level. But since we're dealing with level of significance, at ito raw yung tsansa na pwedeng mangyari yung type 1 or type 2 error mo, so maliit lang value na, 0.10, 0.05, 0.01. Okay, after stating the null and the alternative hypothesis, and specifying the level of significance, a random sample is taken from the population and the sample statistics are calculated. So, kailangan natin ng sample statistics natin. So, ano yung formula ang gagamitin natin? Will it be a z-test, a t-test, or a population proportion? So, iikot pa rin yung topic natin dun sa tatlong statistical test na yon. Okay? So, kung ang population parameter mo ay mu, ang test statistics mo is x bar. So, medyo sira yung symbol nito that is x bar, yung sample mean. At gagamitin mo siya kapag ka ang sample size ay greater than or equal sa 30. So, recall niyo yung ating decision whether to use Z or T. So, mag-a-apply pa rin siya sa hypothesis testing. Pareho lang yung ating gagawing decision. Okay? Kapag ka ang atin namang sample ay less than 30, ibig sabihin small sample, then we'll be using t-statistics. Ganun pa rin, sample mean pa rin itong test statistics mo. Okay, kapag ang pinag-uusapan natin is all about population, so yung P, so we use P hat. Then kinukuha nating table, yung Z pa rin. Diba nakabase yung ating population sa Z table pa rin. And then for standard deviation naman and variance, so itong sigma squared. Hindi na natin ito itatackle with our lesson. Okay, so this will no longer be part of our discussion. Okay, so ano yung p-values? So if the null hypothesis is true, a p-value or probability value of a hypothesis test is the probability of obtaining a sample statistics with a value as extreme or more extreme than one determined from the sample data. So the p-value of a hypothesis test depends on the nature of the test. So there are three types of a hypothesis test: a left-tailed, a right-tailed, or a two-tailed test. The type of test depends on the region of the sampling distribution that favors a rejection of the null. So this rejection is indicated by the alternative hypothesis. So para mas malinaw sa atin yan, let's proceed to the next slide. So what do you mean by a left-tailed test? If the alternative hypothesis contains the less than inequality symbol, so tinitignan natin yung type of test dun kay alternative hypothesis. So kapag ka nasa kanya raw yung less than symbol, the hypothesis test is a left-tailed test. So to illustrate, let's say ganito yung ating null at alternative hypothesis. Mu is greater than or equal sa k, certain value. Mu is less than k. Pansin mo rito yung alternative hypothesis mo contains the less than symbol. So what type of test ito? So this is an example of a left-tailed test. So ganito ang magiging itsura niya in a normal curve. Okay? So nasan dyan yung tinatawag natin p-value? So yung p-value is the area shaded dun sa left side region nung curve. So nandito yung p-value natin. Okay? So naging left-tailed test siya dahil dun sa less than symbol sa alternative hypothesis. At nandito yung value nung test statistics natin. So itong line na to. So pwede siya yung z, pwede siya yung t. Okay, how about a right-tailed test? If the alternative hypothesis contains the greater than symbol, nasa kanya yung symbol na greater than, the hypothesis test is a right-tailed test. Okay, for example, ganito ang itsura na alternative sa kanan null hypothesis natin. Mu is less than or equal sa k for the null. For the alternative, mu is greater than k. Dahil nasa alternative yung symbol na greater than, so this is a right-tailed test. So ganito ang itsura ng kanyang probability curve. Okay? At yung ating p-value is the area dito sa right side tailed ng test o ng curve. And the test statistics, itong value na to. Okay? Next, if the alternative hypothesis contains the not equal to symbol, ibig sabihin yung not equal to, the hypothesis is a two-tailed test. So in a two-tailed test, each tail has an area of 1/2 ng p. Dahil nahati nga yung area ng p sa dalawang tail, so kada isang tail is 1/2 of p. Okay, ganito naman yung itsura ng null sa kanang alternative hypothesis in a two-tailed test. So, equal kay null hypothesis, not equal kay alternative hypothesis. So, ito naman yung kanyang probability curve. Siyempre, meron siyang dalawang test statistics. Dahil ito ay nasa left side, so ibig sabihin, ang test statistics dito negative. At dahil ito ay nasa right side, ibig sabihin, ang test statistics dito ay positive. But remember, the area is always positive. So, ibig sabihin, ang p-value natin ay palaging positive yan. So, pag nakuha mo yung area nito, say for example, nakuha mo yung area nito, i-times 2 mo lang yun for you to get the p-value. Kasi kalahati lang siya, di ba? Because we have a two-tailed. Okay? Or kung kinuha mo yung area dito sa left, times 2 mo, same pa rin yun. Same area na makukuha mo sa iyong p-value. Okay, next, identifying the types of tests. So, let's have a few examples para ma-determine natin whether this is a left-tailed, a right-tailed, or a two-tailed test. A cigarette manufacturer claims that less than 1/8 of the US adult population smokes cigarette. So, ang claim ay less than 1/8 of the US adult population smokes cigarette. So, dahil nasa kanya yung less than, at nandun yung claim, so ibig sabihin that is your alternative hypothesis. Okay? Kasi 'di ba kapag null hypothesis, dapat nasa kanya yung symbol na merong equal sign. So P is greater than or equal sa 0.125. That is your null hypothesis. At dahil tinitignan natin yung type of test kay alternative at nasa kanya yung symbol na less than, so this is a left-tailed test. So remember, ang pinag-uusapan ay population. So hindi siya mu, dapat P. Kasi population ang pinag-uusapan dito. Okay, B. A local telephone company claims that the average, nandun yung word na average, ibig sabihin mu. Length of a phone call is 8 minutes. So how will you represent the null and the alternative hypothesis? Ang claim niya, yung average length ng phone call daw is 8 minutes. So mu is equal sa 8. Yun yung claim. So that is your null hypothesis. At dahil nandito na equal sign, syempre alternative, yung complement, not equal. Okay, so ang claim ay nasa null at ang type of test, titignan mo kay alternative. So not equal yan, two-tailed test. Okay, next. A researcher thinks that if expectant mothers use vitamin pills, the birth weight of the babies will increase. The average birth weight of the population is 8.6 pounds. Okay, so basahin mabuti. Tatranslate natin yung verbal into mathematical. So yung researcher daw, ang sabi niya, he thinks that if expectant mothers use the vitamin pills, the birth weight of the babies will increase. So ibig sabihin, the birth weight will increase. So ibig sabihin, that will be greater than 8.6. Okay, so greater than 8.6, wala naman siya equal sign, right? So that is your alternative hypothesis. At yun yung claim ng researcher. So, ang claim ay greater than 8.6, that is the alternative. So, anong complement ng greater than? That will be your null hypothesis, less than or equal to 8.6. Okay, dahil ang alternative mo has the symbol of greater than, so ibig sabihin, this is a one-tailed test. Or to cut it short, this is a right-tailed test. Okay, clear po ba yung 3 examples? Sana clear sa inyo. How to identify first the type of test at kung nasaan yung claim. Kasi ang claim pwede na kay null, pwede na kay alternative hypothesis. Depende yun sa problem. Okay? Meron pa pala isa. Okay, an engineer hypothesizes that the mean number of effects can be decreased in a manufacturing process of a compact disc by using robots instead of humans for a certain task. The mean number of defective discs per 1,000 is 18. So, ang sabi ni engineer, kung gagamit daw ng robot, okay, the effect can be decreased in a manufacturing process of compact disc. Magdi-decrease daw sa 18. Okay, so that will be your alternative hypothesis. Ibig sabihin ng decrease, mababawasan less than 18. So, siya yung alternative. Ano yun? Null. Greater than or equal sa 18. Okay, dahil nandito yung symbol na less than, so this is a one-tailed test, left ulit. I guess this will be the last example. Hindi pala. Letter E. Ayan hindi ma-example pala to. A psychologist feels that playing soft music during a test will change the result of the test. So sabi ni psychologist, the psychologist is not sure whether the grades will be higher or lower. So in the past, the mean score was 73. So sabi ni psychologist na pagka raw playing soft music during a test will change the result. Pero hindi siya sigurado, will it be higher or lower? So yun yung claim niya. So how will you represent now the null and the alternative hypothesis? Okay, so dahil yung ating mean score was 73, so a mu that equals sa 73, that is your null hypothesis. Dahil nga hindi sigurado yung psychologist, pwedeng mas mababa sa dito 8 73 siya dapat. Okay, edit na natin. So this should be 73. Epekto ng cut and paste. Ayan, para tama na siya. Okay, from current slideshow. Yan. Dahil ang claim niya hindi na alam kung yung effect, it may be higher or lower, kaya yung alternative hypothesis mo is not equal to. So, ibig sabihin niyan, it may be higher or lower than 73. So, this is a two-tailed test. Okay? Sana lahat ay cleared sa ating discussion. Okay? Making a decision. So, now we'll be having the hypothesis testing procedures na. Okay, decision rule based on p-value. So we have two methods na gagamitin natin for lesson 5. So the p-value method at saka yung traditional method. So sisimulan na muna natin yung discussion natin with p-value method. That is why kailangan natin i-consider yung p-value in order for us to make the right decision. To use a p-value to make a conclusion in a hypothesis test, compare the p-value with alpha. Sino ulit to alpha? Yung alpha natin, yung level of significance. Ano yung mga level of significance na na-identify natin kanina? Di ba yung commonly used ay yung 0.10, 0.05, saka yung 0.01. So, if your p-value is less than or equal sa A, then we need to reject the null hypothesis. Pag ang p-value mo ay equal o mas maliit dun sa value ng significance level natin, or level of significance, kailangan daw natin i-reject yung null. So, yung decision na pinag-uusapan natin whether to reject or to accept the null hypothesis. Siyempre, kung ang p-value naman natin ay greater than A, then fail to reject the null hypothesis. Ibig sabihin, we need to accept kung ano man yung nakastate dun sa null hypothesis mo. That is the meaning of fail to reject. Sabihin, accept. Okay, decision. So, ganito natin gagawin yung ating decision. Kung ang claim ay nasa null, tapos decision natin ay nireject natin, kasi dahil siguro nag-less than or nag-equal sa significance level. So, ang statement natin is there is enough evidence to reject the claim. Okay, kasi ang claim mo ay nasa null. At nireject mo siya based on decision, based dun sa statistical procedure na ginawa natin. So, ito yung kanyang statement in the end. Pero kung ang claim mo ay nasa null, tapos accept yung null, ibig sabihin, totoo yung claim, so there is not enough evidence to reject the claim. Okay, we use the word reject kapag ang claim ay nasa null. Okay, next. Kapag ka ang claim naman ay naki-alternative hypothesis, tapos after ng computation mo, you come up with a decision to reject the null. Kung ni-reject mo yung null hypothesis, ibig sabihin, inaccept mo yung claim. Right? Kasi one of them is true eh. Ni-reject mo yung null, so accepted yung alternative. Ay nandun yung claim mo. So what will be your decision? There is enough evidence to support the claim. So look at the words kapag kay null, nandun yung claim, we use the word reject. Kapag kay alternative, nandun yung claim, we use the word support. Okay? Let's look at the other condition dito. Ang claim ay naki-alternative. Tapos, after no statistical analysis mo, accept mo yung null. Dahil in-accept mo yung null, ibig sabihin, this becomes true and this becomes false. So, ibig sabihin nun, dahil false yung claim, dun sa problem na yon, there is not enough evidence to support the claim. Kasi decision mo rito, do not reject. Accept mo yung null. Okay? So, para hindi kayo malito, lagi nyo iisipin, pag ang claim ay kay null, use the word reject. Okay? Pag ang claim ay kay alternative, use the word to support. Or not to support, or not enough evidence to support the claim. Okay? Example tayo. You perform the hypothesis test for the following. How should you interpret? Okay. Kay null hypothesis yung claim. Okay. A cigarette manufacturer claims that less than 1/8 of the PH adult population smokes cigarette. Okay. Ang claim ay kay null. So, kung kay null yan, kung rejected yung null, so you should conclude that there is enough evidence to reject the claim. Okay? Kasi HO is rejected at nandun yung claim. So there is enough evidence to reject the claim. Okay, if you fail to reject, ibig sabihin, inaccept mo yung HO at nasa kanya yung claim, so there is not enough evidence to reject the claim. Okay, steps for hypothesis testing. So, apply na natin lahat na natutunan natin dun sa mga previous discussion natin. So, we need to follow these steps. Kailangan specify natin step by step yung ating procedure. Okay, so step 1, state the claim mathematically and verbally. Identify the null and the alternative. Step 2, identify natin yung level of significance. Step 3, determine natin yung sampling distribution. Ibig sabihin, draw the curve. Step 4, anong test statistics? Anong formulang i-apply natin? Step 5, ano ang p-value natin? Step 6, kailangan ko ikumpara yung p-value sa level of significance. Pag ang p-value ay less than or equal dun sa alpha, reject. Pag ang p-value ay greater than sa alpha, accept or fail to reject. Then statement, make your conclusion or make your final statement. Okay, so lahat yan mag-a-apply whether left-tailed, right-tailed, or two-tailed test yung ating sinusolve. Okay, so now, hatiin natin discussion muna natin sa lesson 5. Lesson 5, focus muna tayo with large samples. So, ibig sabihin, i-apply muna natin yung z-test. So, all the problem has a sample of greater than 30. Sabihin nyo, para ma-apply mo yung kanyang z-test. Okay, yung decision rule, wag kakalimutan. So, unang method natin aaralin is the p-value method. Okay, so p-example muna. Paano ako gagawa ng aking decision rule based on p-value? Okay, the p-value for the hypothesis test is p is equal to 0.0256. So, what will be your decision if the level of significance is 0.05? Ikukumpara ko yung p. So, i-round up na natin to. This is 0.025 para siyang 0.03. O 0.025 na lang gamitin natin as compared sa 0.05. Sino mas malaki? Yung 0.02 o yung 0.05? Mas malaki alpha rito. So, yung p ay less than sa 0.05. So, you should reject the null hypothesis. Di ba kapag ka less than or equal to, dapat reject. Okay, next. Yung p ay 0.02. 0.02 ay greater than 0.01. So, ibig sabihin, mas malaki ang p-value sa alpha level. So, dahil yan ay greater than, so ibig sabihin, accept or fail to reject the null hypothesis. Okay? So, mamaya, makikita natin yung mga examples na to. Nagbigay ako ng mga examples for a left-tailed, for a right-tailed, and for a two-tailed test. So, again, ang pinagkaiba lang naman yan, kapag ka two-tailed test, times 2 yung area i-compute mo. Kasi dalawang tailed yung kino-consider mo. Okay. So, for example dito, the test statistics for a right-tailed test, let's say ang z-value mo ay 1.56. Paano mo hahanapin yung p-value? Kung ang z natin ay 1.56, di ba ang p-value ay yung area shaded dito sa right-tailed? Okay? So, ang ginamit na basis dito ay yung buong curve. Okay, pero dun sa ating table, ang gagamitin natin basis ay yung kasi ang table nito ay yung cumulative eh. Ang ginagamit natin table ay ito lang, yung kalahati lang. Mamaya sa example, makikita nyo, instead na 1, mina-minus ko siya sa 0.5. Baka kasi malito kayo. Iba yung table na ginamit dito. Okay? I-ano ko na lang, i-skip ko na lang. Baka kasi malito kayo mamaya. Okay, ito yung test statistics na gagamitin natin. Okay, so yun yung formula natin. Sample mean minus population mean over standard deviation divided by square root of n. So ang tawag dito sa denominator natin ay standard error. Okay, so ito yung mga steps ulit natin para magamit natin yung p-value method. Step 1, state the null and the alternative. Step 2, identify natin yung significance level. Step 3, ano yung test statistics. Step 4, hanapin ko yung area ng aking z-score. Step 5, anong klase ng test? Left-tailed, right-tailed, or two-tailed ba? Step 6, make the decision. Less than ba or greater than yung alpha level o yung p-value natin sa alpha level. Then step 7 is to make your conclusion or interpret the decision. Okay, ito na example 1. So a manufacturer claims that its rechargeable batteries are good for an average of more than 1,000 charges. Okay, the word is more than 1,000 charges. A random sample of 100 batteries has a mean life of 1,002 charges and a standard deviation of 14. So is there enough evidence to support this claim? Okay, let's solve this one using the p-value method. Step 1. State the claim mathematically and verbally. Identify the null and the alternative hypothesis. Okay, ano yung ating null and alternative? Okay, ang claim ng manufacturer na yung battery nila ay may average daw na more than 1,000 charges. More than 1,000 charges, walang equal sign yun, right? So yung mu na greater than 1,000 ay alternative hypothesis. Ano yung null? So yung null ay yung less than or equal to. Okay? Kasi more than means greater than 1,000. So ang complement ng greater than ay less than or equal to. At ang claim ng company o ng manufacturer ay ito, nasa alternative. So yun yung step 1. State mo yung null, state mo yung alternative, then identify mo nasan dito yung claim. Will it be the null or the alternative hypothesis? Step 2, identify natin yung level of significance. Given naman lagi itong alpha level natin. So alpha level is 0.01. Step 3, determine the standardized test statistics. Okay, dahil ang sample natin ay 100. Tapos given sample standard deviation. Dito pa lang, sa sample pa lang, alam ko na nagagamitin ko ay z-test. Okay, then identify natin mga variables dun sa problem. Okay, so yung aking sample, yung n ay 100. Yung sample mean natin, di ba? Yung mean ng 100 batteries na yon ay 1,002. Yung population mean natin ay nandun sa percentage, 1,000. At yung standard deviation natin is 14. Andito siya. Sample, standard deviation. 14. So now, after completing all those variables, substitution lang. Ngayon, kung wala yung population standard deviation, di ba dahil siya naman ay z-test, pwede kong gamitin yung sample standard deviation dito. So instead na sigma, gamitin ko yung s. By substitution, this will be the value. So ang z-score ko na makukuha ko, ang z-test natin is 1.43. Always remember to round off your answer to 2 decimal places pagdating dito. Okay? So let's proceed to step 4. Find the area that corresponds to z na 1.43. Ibig sabihin, kinukuha na natin yung p-value natin. Kasi meron na tayong z-score na 1.43. Okay? At identify muna natin yung type of test. Will it be a two-tailed or one-tailed? Dahil kanina alternative natin ay greater than, so this is a one-tailed test, right? Or a right-tailed test. Kasi ang ating alternative kanina ay greater than. Okay? So, kukunin ko yung 1.43 na area. Again, ang reference table natin ay ito. 1.43 ay ito. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ang area na to, okay, ay ito yon from the mean hanggang dito sa z-score. So, this is 0.4236. So, itong area na to. And how to get this region? Kaya sabi ko kanina, di ba, dahil ang ginagamit natin table ay ito, ima-minus ko siya dun sa kalahati. So, we'll be using 0.5. So, 0.5 minus 0.4236. So, ang p-value ngayon natin is 0.0764. So, yung area ng green na to, eto siya, 7.64%. Okay, that will be step 4 and 5. Step 6, make a decision. So, ngayon, ihahambing na natin or i-compare na natin yung p-value sa significance level natin na alpha. Okay, ano ba ang p-value natin? Di ba ang p-value natin is 0.0764? Ang alpha natin ay 0.01. So, sino ang mas malaki? Yung p ay 0.07, ang alpha ay 0.01. So, 0.07 is greater than 0.01. So, dahil yan ay greater than, ibig sabihin, accept or fail to reject the null. Because your p-value is greater than the significance level. So, that is your decision sa 6. Ibig sabihin, i-accept mo yung null hypothesis. So, how are you going to make the decision? Okay? Remember, ang claim mo nasa alternative. At ang decision mo based on step 6, in-accept mo to, the null hypothesis. So, ibig sabihin, mali yung claim. At dahil yung claim ay nasa alternative, we use the word support. Okay? At dahil siya nga ay mali, based on your statistical hypothesis testing, dahil in-accept mo yung null hypothesis, so at 1% level of significance, there is not enough evidence to support the claim. Dapat siya ay not enough evidence to support. Kasi lumabas sa iyong statistical analysis na tama yung null hypothesis at mali yung claim niya. Okay? So that will be all for example number 1. P-value method. Lagi lang natin kino-compare yung p-value sa alpha level to make the decision. Okay, another example 2. So a researcher claims that the average cost of men's athletic socks is less than 80 pesos. So he selects a random sample of 36 and catalogs them and finds the following costs. Ito nga yung 36 costs na yan. So is there enough evidence to support the researcher's claim at alpha of 0.10 or significance level of 0.10? So babalikan lang natin how to get the sample mean and the sample standard deviation kapag ka raw yung data. Because we have 36 data dito na raw. So ibig sabihin, yun muna step 1 mo. At hindi ko na siya pinakita yung computation dito Binigay ko na kagad yung value. But I want you to recall that lesson. How to get the sample mean and the sample standard deviation. Okay? So, step 1 na kagad tayo. State the null and the alternative. So, ang claim na kasi that the average cost of men's athletic socks is less than 80. Less than 80, inequality to. So, alternative hypothesis to. So, nandun siya, less than 80. Complement niya, greater than or equal sa 80. At ang claim na researcher nasa alternative ulit. Step 2, alpha level 0.10 given. Step 3, test statistics. Given naman na lahat to. Except lang yung sample mean at saka yung standard deviation ng sample. Ito kinompute na. So kapag kinompute mo yung sample statistics niya, sample mean niya 75. Ang sample standard deviation niya 19.2. So, substitution lang. So, you have a z-score of negative 1.56. Step 4. Anong area ng z-score na negative 1.56? So, hanapin natin siya sa table. Ito siya. 0.4406. Then, step 5. Kukunin ko na yung p-value. Dahil recall, kanina, ang alternative mo ay less than. So, ibig sabihin, this is a left tail test. Kaya itsura ng iyong curve, ito left tail. At negative yung value. Okay? So, ang area nito, para makuha ko siya, again, isa-subtract mo lang lagi dun sa 0.5. Pag ginamit mo yung table natin, laging minus 0.5. So, ang p-value is 0.0594. Then step 6, i-compare ko yung p-value versus dun sa alpha level na 0.10. So, ang 0.05 ba ay mas malaki sa 0.10? Di ba? That is a yes. 0.05 is greater than 0.10. No pala. Less than pala to. 0.05 is less than 0.10. So, yung P is less than A. Dahil less than yung P-value against dun sa significance level natin, so that is to accept. Reject. To reject the HO. Okay, so we need to reject kasi less than yung p-value natin with significance level. Step 7, conclusion. Dahil ni-reject natin yung HO, ibig sabihin, rejected yung HO dito, ni-reject natin to, in-accept natin yung claim. Ibig sabihin, accept yung HA. Tama yung claim niya. So how are you going to make the decision? So at 10% level of significance, there is enough evidence to support the claim. Kasi tama yung claim niya. Okay? Kanina sa example number 1, there's not enough evidence to support the claim. Kasi accepted yung null doon. Dito naman, accepted natin yung alternative, rejected yung null. Okay, example number 3. This is example 3 already. Okay, the Medical Rehab Foundation reports that the average cost of rehab for stroke victims is 24,672. To see if the average cost of rehab is different at a particular hospital, a researcher selected a random sample of 35 stroke victims at the hospital and found that the average cost of the rehab is 25,226. The standard deviation of the population is 3,251. At 0.01, can it be concluded that the average cost of stroke rehab at a particular hospital is different from 24,672? Okay, so how are you going to state the null and the alternative hypothesis? Okay, ang tanong dito, can it be concluded that the average cost of stroke rehab at a particular hospital is different? So, ibig sabihin, not equal to 24,672. So that is your alternative hypothesis. At yung ating null hypothesis, syempre equal. Then ang claim, 'di ba? Yan nga, sabi nga rito, can it be concluded that the average cost of strokes rehab is different? So nandun yung claim. Okay, next, step 2. Alpha level laging given at 0.01. So yan, at 0.01. Step 3, test statistics. Substitution lang. Ano yung ating sample mean? Kumuha siya ng sample na 35. Ang mean score ay 25,226. Ito siya. Ang population mean natin, ito, 24,672. Ang sample standard deviation natin yung 3,251. Ang sample size natin na n ay 35. So, once computed, it will have a z-score of 1.01. Pagkakuha ng z-score na 1.01, use the table. Locate 1.01 sa table. So, 1.0 saka 0.01. This will be the area. So, nasan yung area na yan? Okay, dahil two-tailed test, ito pinakita ko yung two-tailed, negative z-score, positive z-score. So, yung area natin na 0.3438 ay etong area lang na yon, di ba? Ito lang yon, kung kalahati lang dito. So, ima-minus ko siya sa 0.5 para makuha ko yung isang tail dito. So, 0.5 minus 0.3438, so that is 0.1562. So, ibig sabihin, yung isang tail ko rito ay 0.1562. Dahil two-tailed test ito, ita-times 2 ko siya. So, ang p-value ko, times 2 nung area ng isang tail, dahil two-tailed test, so that becomes 0.3124. So, eto nga yung 0.3124 na to, ang i-compare ko ngayon sa significance level. So, 0.3 greater than or less than 0.01. So, notice, ang 0.3 ay mas malaki. Greater than to dapat Okay, i-correct ko ah. So, ang 0.3 ay greater than 0.01. So, ibig sabihin, greater than siya, so fail to reject. Okay, since that is greater than 0.01. So, dahil accept ang null, in-accept ko to, yung null hypothesis, at ang claim ko ay nasa kabila, so ibig sabihin, hindi na-support yung claim. Okay, so at 1% level of significance, there is not enough evidence to support the claim. So yan yung ating p-value method. Sana rin sa tatlo example na yun naging malinaw sa inyo how to use the p-value method in hypothesis testing with one sample. Okay, now let's talk about hypothesis testing naman using another method. Okay, so this time we'll be using the rejection regions and the critical values. Or in other words, ito yung tinatawag nating traditional method. Okay, so a rejection region or critical region of the sampling distribution is the range of values for which the hypothesis is not probable. So if a test statistic falls in this region, the null hypothesis is rejected. Tinitingnan lang natin kung magpo-fall ba siya ron sa rejection region or hindi. A critical value z sub 0 separates the rejection region from the non-rejection region. So ibig sabihin, meron kang rejection sa acceptance region. Example, find the critical value of the rejection region for a right-tail test with an alpha of 0.01. So yung alpha natin yan, 0.01. So ang ating critical value, yung z-score value mo, 2.58. So yung rejection region natin ay yung area shaded. Kapag ka dyan nag-fall yung ating value o yung critical value natin mamaya, so ibig sabihin, reject natin yung decision natin for null. Kapag ka napunta naman siya rito sa non-shaded, accept. Okay, steps. So, ito yung steps natin, ha? Okay, ganito. I-cut short ko na yung discussion natin. Kapag ka left tail test, ang rejection region, itong left tail. Acceptance region natin, itong malaking area. Kapag ka right tail test, ang rejection region natin, ito. Okay, acceptance region natin, ito. Yung non-shaded. Ganun din kahit sa two-tail test. Basta't nag-fall siya under the tail, basta't nag-fall yung iyong value dun sa tail, reject. Pag nag-fall yung value natin mamaya, test statistics natin dun sa non-shaded region, accept. Okay, so these are the steps para naman sa traditional method. Okay, so isa-isayin natin yung mga steps na yan later. Sample number 4. Traditional method. So, a local telephone company claims that the average length of phone call is 8 minutes. So, in a random sample of 58 phone calls, the sample mean was 7.8 and the standard deviation was 0.5. So, is there enough evidence to support this claim at alpha of 0.05? Okay. So, a local telephone company ang claim niya that the average length of a phone call is 8 minutes. So, yung word na is ay equal sa 8 minutes. So, ibig sabihin, yun yung ating null hypothesis. The average length of phone call is 8 minutes. Nandun yung claim. So, ano complement ng equal? Not equal to. Ayun yung alternative mo. That is step 1. Step 2, find the critical value. Since ang alpha level natin is 0.05 at two-tail test ito, i-recall niyo ating confidence level. Diba two-tail test ang ginagamit natin doon? Kasi meron tayong left side, meron tayong right side boundary. So, i-recall niyo 90%. Kapag ka 90%, para hindi na kayo magko-compute o titingin sa z-table, pag 90, di ba 1.65? Pag 95, 1.96. Pag 99, 2.58. At dahil yung alpha level mo rito ay 0.05, kung ang significance, kung level of significance mo ay 0.05 or 5%, Anong confidence level na kapartner niya? 95%. Kaya we'll be using positive and negative 1.96. Okay? Kaya dito, z-score na negative 1.96 saka 1.96. O kaya pwede nyo i-derive, gamitin nyo area. Kung nakalimutan nyo ating confidence level. Okay? So those are the critical value. So yun yung pinaka-boundary natin between negative 1.96 to 1.96. Step 3. Ko-compute na natin yung z-score. So identify lang natin, nasan yung sample mean? Nasan yung population mean? Sino yung standard deviation? 7.8. 0.5, sorry. Then, ilan yung ating sample size? 58. By substitution, now we have negative 3.05. So, ito yung ating z-score value. So, yung z-score ngayon natin, which is negative 3.05, titignan ko siya dun sa aking curve kanina with critical value. Di ba ang critical value natin, negative 1.96 saka 1.96. Saan siya magpo-fall na region? Sa shaded region ba or sa non-shaded? Dahil ito ay negative 3.05, di ba nandito siya? Less than siya ron sa negative 1.96. So dahil siya ay nasa shaded region, so ibig sabihin reject the null hypothesis. The test statistics falls in the rejection region, so HO is rejected. Reject the null. So yun yung decision natin based dun sa ating test statistics at sa critical value natin. So step 5 na tayo. At 5% level of significance, there is enough evidence to reject the claim. Kasi remember, ang claim mo ay nandun sa null hypothesis. Okay, nireject mo yung null. Kasi dito sa decision mo. At nandun yung claim mo sa null. So we use the word to reject the claim. Okay, hindi natin gagamitin yung word na to support kasi kapag kay to support, ang claim mo ay naka-alternative. Remember, ang claim natin dito ay naka-null hypothesis. Okay, example number 5. A researcher reports that the average salary of assistant professor is more than 42,000. A sample of 30 assistant professors has a mean salary of 43,260. At significance level of 0.05, test the claim that the assistant professor earns more than 42,000 pesos. The standard deviation of the population is 5,230. Step A, state the null and the alternative. Ito yung very crucial sa pag-state ng null and alternative hypothesis. Step 1 pa lang dapat tama na. Para yung dulo mo, tama rin. Okay? So, researcher reports, so the average salary of assistant professor is more than 42,000. So, naniniwala siya na yung average salary ng mga assistant professor ay mas malaki sa 42,000. More than is greater than 42,000. So, yun yung ating alternative. At nandun yung claim ng reporter na yon. Yun yung paniniwala niya. Okay, anong complement ng greater than? So, less than or equal to. Again, naka-null hypothesis lagi yung may equal sign. At ang support ay alternative. Next, step 2. Now we find the critical value. Ano yung ating alpha level? 0.05. Okay. 0.05 ito, but remember, this is a left tail test. Kasi, right tail test, sorry. Kasi we have here greater than. Okay, 0.05. So, kung ito yung 0.05, imagine mo, gawin mo na lang siyang two-tail test. I-times 2 mo yung 0.05 value. Ano yung dalawang 0.05? So, that is 0.10. So, kung alpha level ay 0.10, anong confidence level? 90%. Right? Kung 90% siya, so ibig sabihin 1.65. So ganun, kinonect mo lang siya rin sa two-tail test. That's one way. O the other way, i-derive mo siya dito sa table. So that is another way. Kung 0.05 daw itong shaded region na to, so itong region na to from the mean hanggang dun sa critical value na to is 0.4500, di ba? So ito yung nearest value doon. Kaya 1.65. Pwede rin ito. Okay? Or kaya sabi ko nga, kung 1-tailed test siya, ang alpha level ay 0.05, i-times 2 mo siya, magiging 0.10. So ibig sabihin, 0.10 na alpha, 90% ang confidence level. Ano ba ang corresponding ng 90% confidence level na z-score? Diba? That is 1.65. I-memorize natin. 90 ay 1.65, 95 ay 1.96, 99 ay 2.58. So I'm giving you the options ha. Pinapaliwanag yung options natin. Okay? Next. Compute the test statistics. Substitution lang. Ito ay in pesos ha. Kasi ginawa kong peso yung problem. So the z value is 1.32. So ngayon, titignan ko yung 1.32 dun sa curve. Okay, ang critical value natin, right tail tayo, 1.65. Positive lang. 1.65. Ang 1.32, hindi pa siya umabot sa 1.65. So, ibig sabihin, nandito siya sa region na to, na dilaw. At yung region na dilaw na yan, I fail to reject. Ibig sabihin, accept. Okay, so yun yung decision natin. Fail to reject HO. Ibig sabihin, in-accept natin yung null hypothesis. Recall mo kanina, ang claim mo ay nasa kabila. In-accept natin itong null hypothesis na to. So there is not enough evidence to support the claim. So ganon. Okay, for this particular lesson, gagamitin natin yung both methods muna. P-value method saka traditional method. Ngayon, sa mga succeeding lessons, para makasave tayo ng time, saka sa dami rin ng load ng work na gagawin natin, for me, parang mas madali kasing gamitin traditional method. Para sa akin na, kasi mas lesser in steps niya at mas simple siyang gamitan as p-value. Titignan mo lang, will it fall under dun sa rejection or non-rejection region? Okay, again, for this lesson, gagamitin natin two methods pa rin. That is why sa practice exercises nyo, ipapractice nyong gamitin yung traditional method para dito sa problems 1 and 2, at yung p-value method para dito sa problems 3 and 4. Okay, maglalagay na lang ako ng submission folder or magpo-post na lang ako na answer key dun sa inyong Schoology para ma-check nyo yung work nyo. Since wala na tayong i-record dun sa ating accomplishments, ito yung practice exercises na lang. So check your own work. Okay, so that will be all for this lesson. Thank you. And see you sa next lesson natin. Bye-bye.